Eventide Entertainment presents The Drive-In, hosted by Aaron Lopez. All right, welcome back to another episode of The Drive-In. I am your host, as always, Aaron Lopez. This week we have a very special episode, Avengers Infinity War, with a special 3-group of hosts. I told you guys a couple weeks ago with the last episode that we were going to try to bring something new to you. We have 3 new guest hosts. We have John, Casey, and Jack. Gentlemen, thank you for coming today.
Hello.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I'm excited.
The collective. Yes. So we are all here together, and we are here to talk about some very serious discussions with Avengers Infinity War. Before we get started, though, just to kind of have everybody who's listening kind of get an idea of where you guys stand with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, what is your favorite Marvel movie up to Infinity War? So don't include this one. If this is your favorite, you don't get to include this one. So favorite Marvel movie, we'll start with John.
Oh, man, that's a really loaded question.
On the spot.
Yeah, I'd have to say Captain America: Civil War, because it's a Captain America movie, but it has it's one of those solo movies that actually incorporates the whole universe. It finally acknowledges, we have a big universe, that we have a bunch of different characters. We can't keep pushing them out in the plot somehow. And I thought that was really clever.
Well, yeah, I would say it was a solo movie that felt like an Avengers movie.
Oh yeah,
yeah, yeah. Casey, what about you?
I would have to say probably Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Okay.
Probably. I love the villain. I love the general story arc. And they raised a lot of really interesting questions and a lot of really interesting stuff. So
Cool. And Jack?
And to continue the reverse chronology, I'm going to go with the original Avengers. Because I actually watched all 3 of these this week in preparation for this one. And the first one just stood out as kind of... We'd had all these individual movies with each character. Some, like Hawkeye, as part of the Thor movies. But this was the first time that they put them all together in 2012. And it really showed the overall thought they were putting into it from the start. And the cinematics, the action, it was so well balanced and put together that was kind of always a favourite of mine.
Excellent. I'm not really sure on mine. I've pretty much talked about it quite a lot because I think this is we had Thor on the podcast. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that came. Black Panther. So there's been a couple Avengers or Marvel movies that we've actually done on the podcast so far. I'd probably say the one I could watch over and over and over again, surprisingly enough, would be Doctor Strange. I think really Doctor Strange to me was one that I actually was late on seeing. For some reason, I didn't get to see it in theaters. I saw it on Blu-ray, and I was like, oh my god. And I immediately started it again. I was like, what just happened? I need to see this again. Visually was one of those that, I didn't like the villain. I mean, I don't really get into Doctor Strange's comic arcs whatsoever, but I thought that just visually it was probably one of the best ones. And Black Panther to me too did a lot with it. But I'll stick with Doctor Strange. 10 years, 18 movies. Has anybody tried to do the marathon before?
No.
I've done the marathon up through Avengers 1. I've done that before.
So the 6 movies.
I've done the first phase.
Okay.
I'll do them by phases, but I've never done all 3 phases before. I can't.
It's 35 hours.
Yeah, I couldn't do that.
yeah, that's what on Friday when I went to see Infinity War, me and Steven, my friend Steven, we realized that neither of us had actually caught up and seen Thor Ragnarok or Black Panther, and so the day of, I went over to his house and we just mainlined both of those movies and then immediately left to go to the theater.
Yeah.
So
my mother-in-law they did the marathon for Age of Ultron when that came out. So it was they had done, at that point I think we probably lost maybe 4 or 5 movies off of that, but they started it I think the night before, they at 10 o'clock or something, and then finished it and went and saw the midnight screening of it. I was like, that's insane. I wish I could do that. I don't have the fortitude in any way, shape, or form. Okay, let's look at the trailer rundown. So we've got 4 people, and none of us saw the movie together, so we may get some overlap. But the trailers that were in my viewing were Venom, Adrift, Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald, Deadpool 2, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, Incredibles 2, and Solo. Did you guys have anything different that you can remember?
Did you say Drew, the one with the old
Uncle
players?
Drew?
Uncle Drew?
No, I did not have
that. That one was in my trailer. And
okay.
That was the one comedy trailer, and then I got mostly what you mentioned before, and I'm like, this seems really out of place, but I'm really glad it's in there, because it's really funny.
Uncle Drew is one of those that I'll probably watch it. I can't believe they made a movie out of it. Because it was the whatever Reebok or Adidas commercial like marketing for a while. And they're like, oh, people love it. Let's make a movie out of it. But yeah, so out of those that I mentioned, are there any standouts or any ones that you're particularly excited about seeing?
All of them.
Fair.
I mean, I would like to say Venom because that's just it's another superhero film, but like it's giving me a horror movie kind of feel.
Yeah, it's very different.
Which I'm really excited for. Like they're doing a few different takes on Eddie Brock and Venom compared to what we've seen or read about. And I'm just excited to see how they do it differently.
Spider-Man 3 that we don't really talk about.
Oh my god, anything's better than Topher Grace.
Well, I'm wondering how they're going to incorporate the fact that the symbiote just so happens to have a spider suit, like the Venom complex that came from Spider-Man, that was an offshoot of Peter Parker and then into Eddie Brock. So I want to know how they're going to explain that, because for me it's unexplainable right now, because he's in San Francisco, not New York. So they're going to. I've heard rumors that the current Peter Parker, Tom Holland is in it, or cameos in it.
I have heard rumors as well.
So we'll see if they use that to explain it.
It could be they're watching like some Spider-Man, and then like something happens, and like, oh, the suit decides to be a spider.
I'd love if they threw it into Deadpool for fun, because originally Deadpool was the first one to bond with the symbiote, and that drives it insane. And that's the reason because the symbiote keeps a piece of each host. That's how it picks up the Spider-Man thing. I'd love to see them just for that as a little thing in the credits for Deadpool, just for the lols.
It's like, oh look, a symbiote, and he's like takes it, and then he like
Hi, friend.
He like tries to eat it or something, and it doesn't taste good, so he spits it out and goes away. Something really dumb.
12 seconds is all you need, and you'd be perfect. You'd be done.
That's funny. Yeah, I'm a huge Venom fan. I'd say of my comic book collection, Venom has the majority of my interests. The Lethal Protector, which actually I think that's the storyline they're going to be kind of playing in, because Lethal Protector, he's the anti-hero.
And
he's not the villain. And I mean, they said like embrace your inner anti-hero or whatever. So I feel like that's going to be where they go with it. But yeah, I think it's going to eventually, the Venom is going to find its way into the Marvel Cinematic. But I think right now they're still like testing the waters. Do we want to include? We'll see. Yeah, I'm with you there. I think Venom looks really good. The second one, I'm still mad that they revealed it. Like, if you didn't reveal it in the first trailer, why the hell would you reveal it in the second? Like, make us wait to see it.
Because everyone shared that trailer going, you can see the suit now, and that got the hype going.
That's true.
That's why they wanted to do it.
Yeah, I don't know. Adrift, I don't know. That looks stupid to me. It's based on a true story. Jordan saw it. We were sitting there, and it's like based on a true story, and then at the very end you're like, oh, will they survive? And I'm like, well, it's based on a true story. I think I know how it ends. So I hate those movies. Well, let's talk about the Deadpool 2 one, because that was actually one that I hadn't seen yet. I hadn't seen that specific version come out yet.
One where it's like it shows like the other team shows Terry Crews in it. He's in it. It shows
Peter, the new random guy, just Peter.
Oh yeah, Peter.
Do you have any powers? No, it's not yet. You're in.
And they show him jumping out of the airplane with everybody.
And he revealed. And of course, there's been a few Deadpool things since then. There was the IMAX trailer, which was him saying, and in IMAX it'd been bigger, and they're bringing a child actor in a Deadpool suit, and it's just them like shooting the shit. And then there's the other trailer with Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman is singing "Happy Birthday" to someone, and Deadpool is lying on the bed behind him, just being Deadpool. And everyone's not like, why are they in the same room? What's happening? Where are they? What is happening here? So now I'm believing Hugh Jackman is going to show up as, maybe not as Wolverine, maybe just
he might just be Hugh Jackman.
He might just do the Stan Lee thing.
He'll show up as P.T. Barnum. It'll be fine.
Right. Or he'll just sue Deadpool for constantly putting a Hugh Jackman face over his own face.
I absolutely loved the reference. He said, "You're really dark. That's really dark. Are you sure you're not from the DC universe?"
I did love that.
I was like, "Yes, thank God somebody said it."
I think in the trailer I saw for Deadpool, he even called Cable Thanos.
He did, yeah.
Did he?
Got your tits, Thanos.
Yeah, he just
Which you were hoping for. I mean, we have to have it. Right?
Yeah, it's gonna be in there.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. And I think that the one thing that Reynolds said is that he's not going to allow the commercial success of the first one to change how they do the second. And I feel like in the trailers, at least, haven't seen them like going for just like bigger explosions or bigger fights. It's just they're still doing it the same way. And I get that impression at least.
Yeah, as long as there's as much teabagging, we're fine.
And then the other one for me that was new specifically was the Jurassic World, The Fallen Kingdom. I hadn't seen that much. Like, to me, that changed the plot completely. Like, the first couple trailers for me was like, oh, okay, like, the island's blowing up, great. And now it's like, oh, there's a whole plot behind all this. John, you said you're excited for that one specifically. You're a Chris Pratt fan, so like, what are you thinking about that?
Oh man, I'm really excited for the movie. I've like Jurassic Park. The first one is my favorite movie ever, and then to see 2 was a big disappointment. 3 was I like the dinosaurs, but it was really bad. Jurassic World I thought was good.
It had its moments.
It had its moments, and then Jurassic World 2, I'm really excited for because it seems like it's going to be kind of Jurassic Park 2, where they're trying to bring dinosaurs into the human world, but it seems like it's just going to succeed because you have the one shot in the trailer where it's all these surfers, and then the one like creepy. Water dinosaurs like right behind them, going to get them, and then they just show a lot more dinosaurs showing in a real world setting, and if it's Jurassic World and that they're actually bringing them into the world, it just seems a lot. I'm excited.
See, that's why I'm not excited about it. Because I feel like they're just going to go, all right, well, we have had 3 and then we're going to make another trilogy just 20 years later and it's going to be the same story.
That worries me a little bit because I didn't like Lost World.
Neither did I.
It was okay. It's not as bad as whatever the third one was.
Just 3.
Just Jurassic Park 3. That was horrible. 3. Like that one, I feel like they were like, oh, here's all the things we couldn't have done in the first 2. Like pterodactyls and...
The Spinosaurus.
Yeah, like all these different ones. I was like, so the third one... but yeah, I get the same impression.
Yeah. Because I feel like they're going to, same as the second one, they're going to spend the first hour on the island having island problems, then it's all going to get resolved. They're going to get saved at the midway, and then the second act is going to take place back on land. The thing probably escapes. We've seen the child's room in the trailers, and then they're going to somehow subdue it and probably kill it, and then there's going to be a dramatic shot at the end where Chris Pratt stands with a gun and people are surrounding him, and then Jeff Goldblum pops up and beats funny again. It just seems... I don't know. I watched the trailer and I'm hoping a few things happen. I hope the beginning on the island part is kind of short. I feel like I hope that's not like half the story or the majority of the story.
This trailer made me think it won't be.
I don't think it will be. And I also hope at the end it doesn't end with a resolution like all the dinosaurs are gone or they're captured. I feel like it should end kind of like a war, like a Planet of the Apes type of thing, where the dinosaurs don't take over, but they're definitely there. They're there to stay. You think? And then a third movie would come out to be kind of like that conflict being resolved.
So you think Jeff Goldblum's testimony at the end is the final piece, and that will
I feel
set
like,
it up,
or at least like foreshadowing what's going to happen. I definitely feel like it's
okay. I can see that.
That's why I'm really excited because I think that's the route they're going to go. Is that it's not going to be like a movie, like 3 separate movies that are just in the same universe. They're going to be movies that actually affect each other.
Did anyone else feel that Chris Pratt's little lines in the trailer felt very kind of forced comedy? That they were making it a little bit too funny? He's a funny guy. He's a great improver, which if anyone's seen Parks and Rec, he's wonderful. But I feel like let's just let Chris Pratt go loose and then...
I'm worried about that because it's like Chris Pratt is a comedic actor.
He is.
And even with Star-Lord, he's a comedic actor. So his character in Jurassic World is more action than comedy, and I do worry that they're going to try and push a little bit too much comedy on it.
Right, because especially watching the first Jurassic World and watching Infinity War, there were a whole lot of moments in both of those where you could see Chris Pratt really shine through with like acting in a serious way, and I really love seeing that. And that does worry me, that they're going to be like, okay, Chris Pratt, now do something funny.
Or even if they want to just do it and they'll leave it in because, Chris will get laughs.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the other two, I think, should at least get a little discussion. Incredibles 2 and Solo. Let's talk Incredibles 2 first. Jack, you seem to be pretty excited about it.
Such an Incredibles fan, and myself and my friends in college, we actually tried to script a sequel because they were taking too damn long, so we thought we'd write it ourselves. And we started with the exact, as they're going, opening with the Underminer fight.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It completely makes sense. But we then put them 10 years in the future. We put Violet in college and Dash as a senior in high school, and the parents getting older, we thought the kids were going to have to take over, and there was that whole conflict there. But then the problem was Jack. What do you do with Jack? And they seemed to have resolved that, going, right, put him in Mr. Incredible's face and just let that be a whole thing. But they haven't really talked about the villain. They've had that one shot of him taking over the TVs and just being a villain.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking they might do kind of a Bond thing where she's fighting all these sub-level criminals that are all working for him, and then the family's going to have to band together at the end, and there's going to be wonderfulness. But I'm quite excited for that because it's the Fantastic Four movie we all deserve.
Finally, on like their 8th try.
Well, until the Marvels get to hit their hand on the Fantastic Four, then they're gonna
Disney, Pixar, Marvel. It's just leave the Incredibles there. Just leave them.
Yeah, bring them into the Marvel universe.
Do it.
The Infinity Gauntlet. They can do anything they want now.
I know, right?
We could do a whole show on casting the Incredibles as live action.
No, don't. Just put them animated in the films. It worked for Green Lantern.
All right.
No, it didn't.
Yeah, because Green Lantern worked.
Don't make the super suit green or animated.
And then Solo. Like, for me, okay, I keep going back and forth on this. So, I think that the reason why I'm not as excited for this movie as I should be is because we just had a Star Wars movie. And they haven't had enough time to market it and sell it the way they should. And it's like all of a sudden, oh, hey, Super Bowl, solo movie's coming out. Like, they just all of a sudden dropped it on us. So I'm worried that that's going to kind of prevent it from being as good as it could be. But I do think it's going to be a good movie. The more trailers I see, I think it's going to be strong. I don't know if it'll be as strong of a standalone as Rogue One was, but I'm excited for it.
I think it's a really good trailer. And I think there's going to be a good movie because I like every actor that I know that's in the movie. Like I like Donald Glover, I like Woody Harrelson, I do like the guy playing Han Solo, but he's always going to have that challenge of being Harrison Ford.
Exactly.
And that's he's never going to pull it off the way people want him to. And then I feel like they also they know that Disney knows that it's not going to be as popular as they're trying to make it to be, so they're purposely putting it after Infinity War, right after Deadpool, right before Ant-Man and the Wasp comes out. So that way, in case it doesn't do well, they can chalk it up to, oh, we just didn't release it at a good time. But it's a good movie, so I feel like that's what their plan is.
I would agree because we didn't get the trailer until the Super Bowl, and Star Wars. Okay, we're definitely going to get a solo trailer at Star Wars. It's 6 months away. Yeah. 5 to 6 months. That's when you want to have a trailer to get a bit of hype, and there was nothing, not even a whisper about it. And the problem Disney's going to run into now, and they're already starting to see it. You've got every movie coming up across the summer that most of the trailers were all Disney trailers, and they're all within a 2-3 months.
Like Disney's fighting with itself for
money,
and
it's going to cause problems because they're going to say, all right, what's going to make more money? Infinity War. Put it first, throw money at it, market the hell out of it, and off you go. And then Solo's like, I mean, they're probably not even on the press tour yet. Or if they are, people are like, oh yeah, we'll get to them in like 3 or 4 weeks. But then Deadpool the week before, that might cause them a little bit of heartburn.
Yeah. Well, I loved seeing the backlash from the purchase of Fox, because you saw as soon as they got all that, you knew that they were going to have. They then now had owned Deadpool. So then you had. They're like, okay, well, we got Infinity War and Deadpool. We don't want to put those two close together, so they bumped up Avengers a week. But then everybody else around them that wasn't Disney was like, oh crap. So Rampage was supposed to come out on the 20th. That one got bumped up a week because they're like, we're not going to make any money if we only had a week before Infinity War. So all these movies. And then poor, like, I Feel Pretty also came out this week. And it's like, you guys are making nothing. You're not going to make a damn penny this week. So it's just kind of, it's interesting to see the reaction of, like, as soon as Disney basically owns movies now. Like, between all of their different brands and everything, and all the different series that they own. It's interesting. And then, like you said, they are fighting themselves. I don't know. It's going to shoot him in the foot, and I think it might be with Solo, at least for this round. Okay, so let's get to our spoiler-free summary, so we can get to the fun discussion. So your spoiler-free summary this week for Avengers: Infinity War: an unprecedented cinematic journey, 10 years in the making, and spanning the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Avengers: Infinity War brings to the screen the ultimate, deadliest showdown of all time. The Avengers and their superhero allies must be willing to sacrifice all in order to defeat the powerful Thanos before his blitz of devastation and ruin puts an end to the universe. And that comes to you courtesy of Rotten Tomatoes. So it sounds a little flowery. That's why. But okay, this is your warning, and this is a very serious warning that after this moment we will be talking about some very heavy spoilers. And this is a movie that you are going to get a lot of spoilers. So if you have not yet seen Infinity War, do yourself a favor and pause this and come back to us moments after that you've seen the film. And first off, why the hell haven't you seen it yet? This is coming out on the Thursday after, and so you've had a week to see it. If you haven't seen it yet, shame on you. You're not a Marvel fan. But anyways, we'll forgive you because you're going to go see it and then you're going to come back. So here's your moment to step away. Okay, now we are back with those who either have seen the movie, want to hear what we have to say, just were intrigued by having 4 gentlemen on the podcast at the same time, and it just got them feeling all tingly. And they were like, let's see what happens. Or they just are loyal fans like Andre, your weekly shout-out, who are going to listen to everything. So, guys, what did you think? Like, we can definitely get into the beginning, middle, and end, but overall, how are you feeling? First off, do we need some tissues?
No, I've watched it twice within 12 hours of each other, and I cried 4 times in the first showing. Like, not like just, okay, there were multiple times I got water in my eyes, and then there were 4 separate times I actually had the tears coming down my face. And then the second time I saw it, less than 12 hours after I saw it again, there was still two separate times that really just still hit me that I still cried at. But I think after 2 good showings of it, I think I'm good. I think I'm good.
You're
Get
good
on
now.
issues.
Yeah, it was rough. Like, it was hours after the movie. I saw it today, and it was hours, and I'm like, I don't feel good. Like, I'm just like, I feel sad, and I'm like, I know that some of it's going to get resolved, and things are going to kind of work out for some people, but I'm like, I just feel bad. I'm like, I want to go home and go to sleep now. It was tough. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was really well done. We were talking about this ahead of time, but we really had said they did a really strong job about piecing it the way they did. Kind of having teams and going in, like, we'll talk about it kind of as far as settings, because a lot of it took place in like chunk settings and bounced around a little bit, but they were able to really give us groups and not feel like you hadn't seen one for too long. And I think in a movie where you have every single, with the exception of like 1 or 2, every single Marvel hero in one movie, you can really, really easily get some burnout, getting too much of one or completely forgetting about another. So other than Hawkeye, which we kind of think we will see eventually, I don't think we missed anybody who is still living.
Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, the film overall, it was wonderful. Like, visually it was great, cinematically it was great. The grouping was nice because it was paced really well, and then the fight scenes felt really well balanced. Between the little fight scenes, like in the train station with Cap and Vision, and then the bigger ones on Titan, for example. The only problem is with the ending being so sad. It does 2 things. One, it adds a lovely universal sized depth to the problem. It's not just film and there's a nice ending at the end and the film's over. It really does stretch out and adds a real depth of scale to the whole problem. The issue though is we can all guess how it's going to end.
Yeah.
I have a full-on prediction that it's going to they're all going to come back at some point and it's all going to be all well and good in a year's time. We're going, right, well, that's kind of expected.
Yeah, but like before anyone saw this movie, everyone's guess was a certain way. Everyone thought, oh, all the originals are going to die because their contracts are up. They're not going to touch. Can I say who some people?
Oh yeah, we're spoilers now. You're good.
Like, no one's going to take out Black Panther. No one's going to take out Spider-Man. They have movies coming up, and then they're gone. So I am no longer going to say, oh, we know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Especially from the trailers, pretty much every single trailer was either different or edited very heavily.
It was edited, yeah.
Oh yeah, they led you on very
pretty
heavily.
much every time you saw Thanos with a gauntlet, he had more Infinity Stones than what they showed in the trailer. So, and I really like that. I didn't. When I saw the trailers, I'm like, I bet you he has all of them, but I really hope he doesn't just get them all at the very end. Because I want to see him use them, and he does.
Yeah, we get a little bit of it, yeah.
But I was with you. I thought it would end... I honestly thought it would end with him getting the 2 that we saw, which was the Power Stone, the Space Stone, and it would finish with him ripping off Vision's head. That was when... And he would have 3 and then fly away, and then the second film would finish it. And then big fight scene at the end, and then it's over.
I thought it'd be like, snap fingers, cut to black, credits roll. That's what I thought it
was
going to be.
I thought so too.
That's what I thought it was going to be. And it would have been okay, but I'm much happier that it's not.
Well, and that's something too, is I'm sitting here for the movie, and I'm telling Jordan, I was like, all right, I'm pretty sure I know how this is going to end, but I'm not going to tell you yet because she is not familiar. She hasn't read the comics, and I was like, if I'm going to make this whole arc into a 2-part movie, it's ending here, and it was with the snap of the fingers. I was with you, John, where I thought we wouldn't see who was going to be gone, and then you had the entire year to figure out like who's going to be the half, and then actually that half would be gone because if you go off of the comics, they're changing it a little bit. Our Sentry is definitely not who they're going with as far as the saving grace. Possibly because Sentry's involved with the Guardians. Adam Warlock, also known as Sentry. Warlock has been teased. I was kind of surprised we didn't get a Warlock tease or something like that in this because he's the one who prevents everything in the comics. But
nothing got prevented, so there's nothing for him to prevent anymore.
Well, no, so what happens is he actually resides in one of the stones in the comics. So what happens is he, from within the stone, is able to reverse everything that happened with the changing the reality. He shifts it back, and everybody comes back in order to defeat him. So It's like, but he clearly doesn't reside in one of the stones because they had him at the end of Guardians being like created. So it's different. So I don't know where they're going to go with that. But yeah, I really felt like we were going to get the snap in some form, and that was going to then lead us into it. So I still, though, I hurt. My heart hurts so bad. So, Casey, what do you think?
It was weird when we talk about like whether or not we cried or anything like that. I didn't cry during the film at all, and then I went home and I was like mentally reviewing and thinking about some of the scenes where they die, and I started thinking about the Black Panther scene and the Peter Parker one. Just hammered it in, and I just started crying just from thinking about that.
I was gonna say I thought you didn't have a soul, and then you were like, "Oh, I cried later. It's okay."
Yeah, no, I saved my crying.
Oh my god,
I was in public, Aaron. No.
I didn't care. Like for me, it was so bad. I actually had to cover my mouth with my shirt because I didn't want to make sound during the movie, but I couldn't control it anymore.
It's this ugly cry. John's over here just
like, oh! I started huffing a little bit when Peter was falling down.
Oh, that was right.
That was probably the most emotional part. Star-Lord gonna shoot Gamora. That's the first one that got me.
Yeah,
that one got me to cry.
And then they give you bubbles, and you're like, haha,
bubbles. Because they not only did they show him willing to kill Gamora, but they built up that relationship between the two of them, and then it finally cultivated right when she's possibly gonna die, and it was just
yeah. All right, let's get into it. So the first major scenes on the Asgardian ship, the remains of it with Loki and Thor and Bruce and the Black Order and Thanos. We get a pretty strong vision of what remains of the Asgardian people, which is very few, and the Black Order just going through and like killing anybody that remains. We see what's his name? Heimdall is there, and he's alive. He's long. Kind of. He's there. So I got Heimdall, you've got Thor, and then you have Loki who comes in. And
no Valkyrie.
No Valkyrie. Yeah,
she was dead.
Valkyrie's dead?
Yeah, if you watch like really closely, she's at Thanos' feet, having been defeated, trying to kill him.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. I thought she just wasn't in it. I thought
that's depressing because
I didn't even notice her body.
I thought she was very strong. And
put her on the list.
She's on the list.
Yeah, because like this whole time I was like, oh, did Valkyrie? She's gonna be. She got away because Thor says only like half the people died, but you don't see anyone alive.
It's true.
So I have no idea if that was just something they didn't think about. Or...
Well, that's something too. Is we do see his way of doing things of kind of splitting a population and then. Killing them.
Like half of them is
so
on a different ship.
Maybe he sent them out on a ship, but also at the same time, it didn't feel like that. Like it felt like Asgard was gone,
right?
So
I guess we'll wait and find out what happens to them. I really like Valkyrie. I hope she somehow comes back.
I do too. I say because we don't. I mean, that's something too. Is the one thing I think the Marvel Universe has struggled with is having strong female protagonists. They always seem to be secondary. You know, Black Widow. I don't know. I still don't know if I like her as a character or not. But Black Widow, Scarlet Witch was a secondary character to her brother, and then you're like, oh, brother's dead, so good. And then she becomes a secondary character to Vision. And I mean, she had her moments in this one, but I kind of hope that we do get Valkyrie back at some point. But I don't know. Everything outside of the snap, I kind of feel is set in stone.
It's the one thing I will ask about that is Loki. Because he was there, and then he steps out from behind like a column or something, and has that interaction with Thanos, and then he magics the knife, and then goes for it. Then he, strangles Loki.
Yeah.
But we've seen this, and it was even called out half an hour later, where there was, well, he's been dead before.
Yeah. But he also said, I think this time it's real.
Mm-hmm. Thanos even says no resurrections this time. Like everyone, I think Loki's gone.
I think Loki's gone, and it's sad,
because especially after like Thanos, everyone left, he would have come out and taken Thor somewhere safe. He would have come out eventually.
I don't know. I think he's beaten with the four minions around Thanos, and Thanos himself. Loki just isn't strong enough without Thor, and Thor covered in metal and like restricted.
No, I mean but as soon as Thanos and all of them leave, he lets him go, and then the ship's getting destroyed. I think at that point, when Thor's over Loki's body, Loki would have come out, be like, "I'm still alive," and would have taken him somewhere else, not leave him stranded in space to get found by the Guardians.
Yeah, I mean, because you could definitely tell, at least in that moment, he did have some major emotions. Like he had to step out and do this because he's looking, and even said son of Odin. There's that connection of like that's why I think he's dead, is because he said son of Odin. He made that connection with him that like
he's
yes, we are brothers, and then he's gonna try to do this and then dies from it. So I don't know.
They've let themselves open. I guess they need it.
They do.
I'd love to see him come back.
The nature of Loki himself. If they're like, oh crap, we need Loki back, they can.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I think for now he's gone. Because that's really like tragic for his character though. Like he's a villain this whole series, and the one moment he decides he's gonna be a hero, and that's what gets him killed.
Which, like, if you look at character like Loki's character arc throughout all of the Marvel films, he has this very like descent into villainy, and then he sort of weirdly transitions into like anti-villainy, and then he sort of waffles back and forth on that for a while, and that's sort of his whole like character mechanic in his interactions with Thor and throughout all of that.
For my reason, I think he's gone just because they've played him out a lot. He's been in so many movies. He's been the main villain, so they don't need him as the main villain. And Loki is a villain. He's played the role of the anti-hero in Ragnarok, and I think he's done. I don't think we're going to get a whole lot more as far as Thor either. You know, that's kind of one of my theories. I think Thor will pass the torch in some fashion in the next part, but
Jane Foster question mark?
If they hadn't brought her in the movie, yes, but
and then written her out of the movies,
and then written her out with one line. With one line.
Hey, they glossed over Spider-Man's backstory with one line, and I'm so happy they did.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we lose Heimdall. Heimdall uses his powers one last time to open the Bifrost, and I think it's important before we even talk about who he transports out of the ship to say that Loki brings in the fact that they have a Hulk, and for me, this was one of my favorite battles, even though it's very short, the one between Thanos and Hulk, because it really showed off Thanos' power, which we hadn't seen before. We'd seen him just walk slowly. We'd seen him turn around. We hadn't actually seen him fight. So at this time, for the first time, I was like, oh shit, like, Thanos he's something.
Yeah, he doesn't even use the Power Stone or anything at that point. He just beats the shit out of Hulk, and it's, oh my goodness. And you can see it was like precise too, because his first punch goes right to like Hulk's collarbone and breaks that, and then he's just going for all these points to like make him disable him. He's not even going to like just beat him up.
What are your guys' theory, and we're kind of jumping ahead a little bit in this discussion, but what do you guys think the reason that Hulk won't come out is? Because the one and only time we see Hulk is in the ship. The rest of the movie, he refuses to come out of Banner. There's this like literal inner struggle. So why do you think he won't come out?
I think because he's a scary little kid who got beat up. He's really like because in Thor Ragnarok they make a big point saying they are now two separate people, and they're making Thor kind of grow up and evolve a little bit to be kind of like a child. And I think what happened is the child got beat up, and now he's scared to go back outside.
It does seem very performance anxiety-esque. But the issue I have with it is if he overcomes that in the next one, which I'm presuming he will at some point, and we'll have lovely strong Hulk again. If he is to fight Thanos, how can they now go, okay, now that, we've been, it's 4 weeks later, now he can take him on in a proper fight that he couldn't 4 weeks ago. I mean, he tried and was beaten in, 60 seconds? With a couple of time punches from Thanos. And then later on, which I find very strange, is you've got Cap holding him back with the gauntlet. So we should presume that
when we get to that point, I have a lot to think about that point.
Okay.
When we get there in the story, I don't want to talk about it right
just
now.
Doesn't compute in my head. I'm like, you've got Hulk and you've got Cap, and I know that Serum and everything else.
Yeah,
are
but still, there's a line.
But still, there's a line, and Hulk all of a sudden.
I don't think it's a power reason of why that moment happened, but when we get there, we can talk about that.
I think with Hulk, maybe with that is Hulk is one of the most powerful beings, at least in the entire cinematic universe, or just the Marvel universe. But Hulk by himself, I think, wasn't able to beat Thanos. Hulk with maybe Thor, or Hulk with maybe because he's basically the physical. He doesn't have any powers beyond that. Which again, I'm so confused as to why every single time we tried to kill Thanos in this movie, we were trying to use a knife. Like, of all the things that you could have done, like knife, because Loki tries it, Gamora tries it.
Well, because everyone who tries there's no other way they have to beat Thanos. There's nothing else to beat Thanos. Like, they know they can't beat him to death. They know they can't. Like, no one has the power to disintegrate him or to vaporize him.
But the time that they got closest to it on Titan, they didn't use any.
They weren't trying to kill him. They were just trying to get the gauntlet off.
Yeah, that's true.
Which Nebula there could have been like stabby, but whatever.
Yeah. Plus, if Thor just aimed for the head, we wouldn't have a problem, or a second film. But
right,
yeah.
But we'll get to that.
So yeah, there's this fight between Hulk and Thanos. Hulk gets his ass kicked and essentially is about to die when Heimdall goes and uses the Bifrost one last time to send him back to Earth. At which point, Thanos kills Heimdall. Rest in peace, Idris Elba. Which again, I thought he was gonna. I was surprised we even saw him in Ragnarok. I just kind of thought that his character had been played out a little bit. But so Heimdall's gone. Loki apparently is gone. We have some thoughts on that. And Thor is left in the ship to die essentially as Thanos destroys the ship with his Power Stone. Which then takes us to New York City and the Sanctum Sanctorum with Doctor Strange and Wong, Iron Man, and this whole next scene. Basically, the scene starts with and I don't know if there's any. What are your guys' thoughts on this? I don't know if there's any validity to it, but apparently Doctor Strange has run out of money. Did you they were talking about that?
I thought Wong had no cash.
No, neither of them have any cash because, I mean, they're not getting paid to do, like, the whole Guardian thing that they do.
Yeah, because Doctor Strange he's not a doctor anymore.
Yeah.
He doesn't
Right,
do any
and-
surgery.
So is there any reason, like, other than just being kind of funny? Like, do you guys feel like there's anything...
Well, no, because if you remember the Doctor Strange film, he spent all of his money desperately searching for some sort of cure for his hands.
But he can slip into a vault. Just,
I mean, that's fair.
But he's not a villain. He's not
But he
gonna
won't.
steal people.
well, his duty is to protect the Time Stone. Everything else after that should be secondary. I mean, rules of the planes of Earth are quite.
Which makes me mad at
subtle.
Wong after he leaves, because
I'm surprised we didn't see any of him.
Like Wong is like, our first duty is to protect the Time Stone. As soon as Time Stone's gone, Time Stone's gone. Bye. It's like
You gotta protect
bullshit.
you gotta protect the Sanctum.
Because if they added Wong into that final fight, that might have gone very differently.
I think it would be hilarious to see a scene of Doctor Strange having absolutely no money and thinking, well, I guess I'll go back to doing surgeries. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
That might be just a throwaway. I don't think they're going to try that.
Yeah, it seemed like it wasn't necessary for the plot. Like, they just needed them to have some small talk for when Hulk basically just explodes into their house. So Hulk swings in and basically transports in with the Bifrost. And we have Iron Man who comes in essentially. What did you guys think of his introduction? Because it seemed kind of quick.
Iron Man with Pepper.
the Iron Man and Pepper possibly having a child thing. I thought it was a weird sort of thing to introduce right before everything else that happens, and I think they did it specifically because everything else was about to happen, and it made it hit home a little bit harder for him. I don't think it was necessary, especially like later on when Tony leaves Earth and he has the phone conversation with Pepper Potts, and she's saying, come back to me, don't leave, Tony.
I think it's a foreshadow of how it's going to end. I think it's going to end Tony still isn't dead, because they're not going to kill him off. But I feel like it's going to end with them not killing Tony off and him finally decide, like, Thanos is beaten. That's the big baddie. I'm officially done. I'm going to go have a family with Pepper. I think that's what they were trying to allude to. Is that as long as Thanos is there, as long as there's this big galactic threat, he will always have to be Iron Man. But as soon as that problem's gone, now he has no reason, and he's going to finally be with Pepper.
Do you guys think that they're going to replace him as far as, I can't remember her name, Kiki, I think it is. The teenage. Do you think Iron Man's done after this?
I think Iron Man's done after this.
I think what they could do if they were really wanting to make a hell of a lot of money, they could reboot the universe and do an alternate universe and then bring in the other ones as subsequent every now and again. They could do all the later stuff and now they've got X-Men. They could take that and they could slam into all the stuff they just got from
I really
Fox.
don't want them to.
I don't want them to reboot the universe.
Neither do I.
I can't handle that.
I
can't
don't think I
handle
could
like
do it.
another 10 years of the world building.
Yeah, we've had that enough with Spider-Man and I'm kind of done with that. So
We've all invested too much lifetime to reboot the whole thing.
Because I'm 20. Half of my life has been this Marvel Universe. I don't want to spend another half rebuilding it. I'm okay.
I cannot handle more origin stories for everyone.
True.
Yeah.
I am played out on
I like them every now and then, but it was like for 5-6 years, that's all we were getting.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, it made sense. Like, we needed it.
Right, phase 1 they had to introduce everybody.
But yeah, I still think, like, the first Iron Man was awesome, but it just was kind of boring in comparison.
Oh my gosh, like you go back and look at these other older Phase 1 and 2 movies, and then you think about Infinity War, just the scale is so different.
God.
Like, everyone was like, Avengers can't work because there's 6 superheroes. Got like 30-something superheroes,
Well, think
like
of it this
60,
way.
70 cast.
They lost their minds when Nick Fury showed up as a second hero. Like, you were like, oh my god, there's 2 of them now. Or like, now we're like, There's 65 of them.
Now there's not at least like 3, and people get kind of upset. Be like, that's a wasted movie.
That's actually why I didn't like Black Panther as much, because it just felt like more of the same again.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to have a thing, he's going to have a downfall, he's going to come back, and then he's going to win at the end, and then, you need this for Infinity War. I see what you're doing here. It felt kind of...
It did feel very Phase 1-esque.
It did. Yeah, and that's something too, is that we haven't had an origin story since Ant-Man.
I thought Doctor Strange came out after Ant-Man.
Doctor Strange after Ant-Man?
Yes, it was.
I thought it was.
Okay.
But...
Because Strange was right before Ragnarok, because they had the Prelude to Thor at the end of it with him with the giant beer.
Oh, yeah, because Doctor Strange happened, and then Black Panther.
Then Panther was the last one before this.
No, I thought Thor came out last November, and then Black Panther came February.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Doctor Strange came out a year before Ragnarok.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
But
it's one of those that it's interesting to look back on these and say, like, all right, so where have we come from? I remember the very first Iron Man of thinking like that there really was no villain in the first one. Like you had what's his name? It was
Obadiah? Are you talking about
Obadiah.
Stane.
Obadiah, yeah. And he wasn't really the villain. He was just kind of the asshole until the very end, and then he was like the somewhat powerful asshole. But yeah, it feels like now we have been building so much that you look back at these other ones, you're like, what do I spend 2 hours of my life wasting watching these? But got to remember where you came from too.
Oh yeah.
So we see this we get this reveal that Pepper may be pregnant, or potentially kind of this tease. Doctor Strange pops in and says, "Hey, there's a problem," and then they go to the Sanctorum. Then all of a sudden, things are getting weird, and you see Strange's hair moving and this weird sound. And then the donut ships, which I don't really know what else to call them. These huge, like basically circular ships. That kind of look like, what is it from? There's the pod racing, the one dude.
Sebulba's engines.
So there's a little bit of those. But yeah, so you have this ship come in, and they're like, "Oh crap!" This is the first time in I think any Marvel movie where I felt like there was a real problem, not a cinematic problem. Like the feeling of the people. And maybe it was just the camera work. I don't know what it was.
It kind of had
camera
disaster
work was...
movie-esque like filming to it. And I was really impressed with that.
It just felt really weird, which I liked, because then you actually were like, shit's about to go down. Like you felt worried, and for the first time, because you're like, oh, the superheroes, like you always say, like superheroes going to come together. They're going to be fine. There's going to be like you had uncertainty here.
The hero's journey.
Yeah. And this is where you see Spider-Man. Peter Parker has his first time, actually, I think, that we see the spider sense in any form, which is pretty cool.
You kind of see it in Civil War, because like he's fighting Bucky and the Winter Soldier, Bucky and Falcon. He's hiding real quick, and you see his eyes like twitch a little bit. He goes, "Oh my god!" and then he dodges the flying door or whatever that thing.
That's right.
Which people keep wanting to forget about. I feel like he has spider. Like
he has.
He's shown spider sense, but. I mean, the directors have always made a point that we're not going to showcase it, because that was one of the biggest things of the other Spider-Man films. Yeah. Like, we know he has it, so it's not a huge deal.
So we have his friend who gets his very, very small cameo, and I don't know if it was him giving him the distraction that he wanted, or if he genuinely was freaking out.
Kind of both.
Either way.
I think it was the second one.
I think genuinely was like, oh my god. Yeah, Peter says, like, hey, I need a distraction, because he needs to get off the bus, which Stan Lee is driving. Which actually, while we're talking about Stan Lee, have you guys seen his condition lately?
No, it's not great.
Is it getting worse?
It's not getting good. I think the last thing is he had to have been hopped up on so many meds, because either that or he's just close. He was at a comic convention signing his like comics and everything. He's moving very slowly, and every single time they were like telling him his name. Okay, Stan Lee. Like it was like, oh, this is not good.
Ooh.
This is
he is quite
he's over 90.
Yeah, he's old. Yeah. He's been through a lot.
Well, and he has actually, I think we're down to probably 3 or 4 of them now, but he has recorded and filmed a lot of cameos, so we'll see him in a few more.
That's going to be a weird deal when we see a Marvel film where Stanley's not in.
I know.
Or where he's appearing posthumously.
That's probably going to happen first.
That's going to be really weird.
Yeah.
Don't pull a Rogue One on us. Don't put in CGI characters.
I know. No, so we'll get him. God, I hope.
But you can just film him doing random stuff in different costumes for a day and a half, and then go, right, we'll cut it in somewhere.
Yeah. But he's driving the bus. Peter gets off and heads over to the ship. At this point, we have a pretty interesting fight. This is where we see the Black Order for the first time actually fighting. We see them kind of messing around with stuff, but at least 2 of them. I don't know what the big dude did. Maul was the one that...
Maul was the wizard.
Was the wizard guy. I don't know the names of all of them. I couldn't...
And he was Tommy Taylor Vaughan. I think he's an Irish actor. Like, one of the Irish actors. I didn't even know it was him. Didn't even know he was in it. And just want to give him a shout out. He's great.
There you go.
Lovely actor.
Let's see if I can find him here. We have...
Should we really go cast him in Infinity War?
Yeah.
You're going to be
there's
for a
Maw,
long time.
Obsidian. Obsidian's the big guy.
Obsidian's
Yes.
okay.
Maw, and then...
Whoever the girl was awesome. She was probably my favorite Black Order member.
Oh, yeah, that was the Division fight in Edinburgh, right? That was over that
Well,
side.
just the girl, this is the girl Black Order person the whole time. She was probably my favorite. Also, her design was awesome.
Yeah.
Cole Obsidian, Ebony Maw, Proxima Midnight is what her name is, and then the guy that she's
Glaive.
initially introduced with is Corvus Glaive.
So, yeah, and I thought this was cool because the Black Order you haven't seen in any way, shape, or form throughout this entire time, but they were really showcased in this.
Yeah.
Very showcased. Like, well, the 4 of them and Thanos. It's pretty cool. Like, unfortunately, like, I don't think any of them survived.
No, they all died.
The Black Order's gone. But it was kind of like, if we're gonna get to use them, we're gonna use them. Which I thought all of them had their moments, which was pretty cool. But so you have this fight between Obsidian, Maw, Spider-Man, Strange, and Iron Man.
And Wong.
And Wong, yeah, Wong is involved. And it's, what did you guys think? I mean, it was our first major fight. I mean, outside of the little kind of skirmish going up in the Asgardian ship. What did you think? Because we had a lot of these battles. Every single setting seemed to have some sort of a battle.
I think it was really interesting how they decided not to make all the heroes fight with a lot of synergy at first. Because you see when Wong and Doctor Strange are trying to make like a shield or something, you see Iron Man blast through it, and then like when they cut to a different shot, like they're both kind of stumbling, like they weren't expecting that.
Yeah,
I think it was interesting that they showed. Like, they were willing to be like, oh, yeah, not all these heroes know how to fight together. So
they never even met.
Yeah,
right.
so like
Strange
and you're seeing that power dynamic between Stark and Strange, because Strange is like, I am Sorcerer Supreme, like, I am Tony Stark, you'll do what I say. No, you'll do what I say. That's why he hung out and kept the stone. And then we see it later with Tony and Star-Lord, and they're bickering, like, I'll do the plan, no, I'll do the plan, it'll be a good plan. Like, all that kind of jazz. So we're seeing these power dynamics in the group, and it affects, but then it all cultivates in that fight on Titan then when they all eventually work together, and then Star-Lord's a little bitch and ruins the whole thing.
Okay.
Well, and I think that this is cool because in the comics, the discord between Strange and Stark is very present. Like, I was very happy in this that they portrayed it this way. The only thing that was missing between all of their interactions was a goatee joke, which is in the comics a lot. Tony Stark always plays about that how Strange stole his idea for the goatee
awesome
because it
facial
made him
hair
look.
brothers
Yeah, the
or
facial hair brothers. Yeah,
I was hoping for a Sherlock Holmes reference.
I know. That would have been awesome.
Avengers 4, it's fine.
There's still time.
We're
still time.
Everybody tweet at Marvel Studios
Give us something. Give us
for the next year.
Well, we haven't seen a Human Torch reference from Chris Pratt yet. It's been almost 10
Chris
years.
Evans?
Like, yeah, Chris Evans, yeah.
So this fight happens. We really see Obsidian's power because Obsidian's like Hulk, but he's fast, agile. He's got a huge like axe
hammer
Club
thing.
yeah.
And he just seems quicker than Hulk. So you've got that, and well, let's see. You have him as like kind of a Hulk hybrid. Maw is definitely a Doctor Strange hybrid. What was her name again?
If not more...
Proxima Midnight.
Well, Mom might be more of a Scarlet Witch because she's telekinetic.
That's true. Yeah.
Because I feel like they've kept her secondary because she's so damn powerful. And I think they call it out in that fight scene towards the end when the other girls are like, why hasn't she been here the whole time? Like, she can kick ass, and they're kind of keeping her back.
Well, and I think that's a little bit of a tease to the House of M series where she whispers no more mutants, and she literally just the thought of getting rid of mutants changes the entire universe. And she then it's her and like her brother and Magneto are kind of like the only mutants left, and they're not even really mutants. And it's just like because she's so upset that she's been outcast. I think that's kind of a tease of like how powerful she is because she hasn't really gotten a whole lot of attention. But yeah, Midnight, I don't know. She was kind of like a Black Widow
just like a fighter.
Yeah, I don't think she had any powers.
No, she had that axe.
Yeah.
She had was she the one who stabbed Vision?
Yes. I
Or
think
was
so.
that?
That was Glaive. I think that was
it?
Glaive.
That
Because
was
Glaive had
yeah.
that, like, the yellow golden weapon.
She pitches that at
She's the one who throws it at
Captain America. Yeah.
Well, is he Captain America anymore?
Well,
Is he
he's
Nomad?
Steve Rogers.
He's always.
I think he's Nomad because he doesn't have the...
The
he's
star
wearing
is
the same-
intentionally
Yeah.
removed.
He's got the same suit, but the star is missing. I think he's Nomad now.
Yeah, she definitely has that very Black Widow or Nebula or
Pretty much just like a fighter.
Gamora sort of vibe.
Yeah.
Going on.
And then what would you call Glaive then?
Probably the same.
Yeah, those two seemed like they were like almost brother and sister. Like they had that like vibe going on where they worked well together. And then you had the idea later that you'll pay for his death in quotes, air quotes, because he's not dead. But yeah, I don't know. I love the Black Order. I thought that it was just portrayed really well because you can't have them go up against Thanos every time because clearly we'll see what happens if he does.
Right.
And those two fights were so well balanced, and you had two different styles of fighting. Like one was the big fight in New York with the half of a car being thrown around and people being chucked, like picking up things and throwing it down the street. And you had the quiet, contained little, stealthy spy fight in the train station in Edinburgh. And there was the smashing of Vision and everything else, but it was just a nice little contrast of the two different fighting styles and the two teams.
Very much more interpersonal, like hand-to-hand combat stuff going on.
Yeah.
Versus all of the explosions and the rocketry and things like that.
Yeah, and at the end when you incorporated Midnight and Obsidian together, it was another kind of switch of it. It was cool to see how they worked on their own too, because they seemed to be a very strong collective. But then to see like Maw when he was working alone on Strange, and to see like how he looked at things, it was pretty cool. So kind of getting to that point, so Strange gets captured in this fight. Essentially, we see that he has this spell on the Time Stone. On the
Eye of Agamotto.
Yeah, and he's got the spell, and basically you have to kill him in order for it to wear off, and even then it's not going to be easy.
Actually, I thought you couldn't kill him because he said something about how if you kill me, just like there's like he's a deadlock spell or something like that. Where I think that's what Doctor Strange said.
Okay,
if you kill me, you can't remove it.
Yeah, there was some
because he's like you're
reference
gonna wish you were dead, and that's what he said.
That's right.
So that's why when he threatened with one instant I can kill your friend, I thought he's bluffing, but.
Well, I think that's why when we get him on the ship, it's more of a torture. He's torturing him. He's not trying to kill him.
Yeah, he's trying to...
Right. So Strange gets captured, goes into the ship, and everybody goes for him, Iron Man and Spider-Man. Spider-Man then starts running out of air, because clearly he's not... he can't fly through space. And this is where we get the superiors. This is where we get the superior Spider-Man suit. Which it feels like that's been teased for a while. Yeah. So if we finally get it, it was a cool moment. Jackie said people cheered.
Oh, yes. We had cheering for that one.
No, I had a boring audience. Like, I wanted to cheer, but I was like, no one has had any verbal reaction to anything that's happened yet. So I'm not going to be that one 28-year-old in the back just yelling. Especially when I was standing next to a kid, or like we're sitting right next to a kid who just didn't seem to care. I was like, you don't know what you're seeing.
So on that point of the new suit, how do we feel about all that we have now that everyone has nanites apparently? Everyone's just going to have nanite suits, and it's going to be.
Does the Iron Spider suit have nanites?
It just slapped onto him and then formed.
Well, but you've seen other Iron Man suits like slap on and form.
Well, no, but they were in Iron Man 3. They mechanically opened up, and he would jump in, and off he went. And then a Mark 42 suit came in sections and assembled piece by piece and interconnected.
Yeah, this one kept building as it went. Like it just kind
of repaired itself and could form. Like,
if it is an nanosite suit, I'm not that upset because you have the technology. You might as well use your best you got.
Right?
Yes, but it just had, T'Challa got it, and now it feels like Iron Man has it, and his is infinitely better because he can form into whatever he wants. And it just seems a bit gratuitous. I liked the fact that it was mechanical. As a mechanical engineer, I kind of liked that.
It lost a little bit of it with him. Like again, like you said, like if you have it, you're going to use it. But I'm kind of with Jack when I think it's missing a piece of what made Iron Man, at least up to this point, kind of an interesting character. Like if you get his helmet punched off, it's not going to just immediately reappear. Right. It's like he then is vulnerable.
He's a little bit OP now. Right. He's a little bit OP.
Not according to Thanos.
Well, I mean, he had him. He cut him. He got that little nick on the face all by himself. As
Did all that for a drop of...
yeah.
That was... When I heard him say that, I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Well, okay, OP, remove that. It's OP in the relative universe of
Yeah.
the
I
rest
don't know.
of
I still think Captain America could kick his ass.
Yeah, as
we've
someone
seen
who's-
that though.
Put on the suit.
Plus, he's got a few...
So we got Strange up in this donut ship. Superior Spider-Man now, essentially. Well, not necessarily, because it's still Peter Parker.
I thought it was Iron Spider.
It's
I
Iron
was-
Spider.
The suit is the Iron Spider.
Yeah. So the Iron Spider suit is the same suit that shows up in the Superior Spider-Man comic. But Superior Spider-Man comic is not Peter Parker.
It's Dr.
It's
Octopus.
Dr. Octopus.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, we're
I don't
taking what we like from all the comics and we're
Yeah, I don't think they're hitting anything.
Yeah,
I
hence all
think
the spider legs, Yeah.
I like that. I thought it was cool. I'm very excited we finally got something different. Not because Tom Holland's character hasn't gotten to play around with it, but it's because we as fans have seen all these different variations and we're like, just give us the newest one that needs to be here for this specific setting.
Yeah.
And we see, okay, I'm trying to make sure before we jump into Scotland, specifically, we do need to kind of figure out, because do we get the whole resolution with Maul before we go to Scotland, or is it kind
No,
of...
because they see it on TV.
That's right.
They're in Scotland and they see the attack on TV, and that's how they need to leave, and then they get attacked.
Doesn't Thor meet the Guardians first before we go to Scotland?
I'm not sure about that.
The nice thing is about this is we can jump kind of around.
Because
until they meet up,
until they all start meeting.
it doesn't really...
Yeah.
Yeah, because I thought it was they were in space, and then they started playing Guardians music to kind of hint that was them, but they still showed a space scene, so you didn't know it was them until you saw them on the screen.
Which was the only song.
That, and no, there was two.
And there was
the Black Panther theme,
Yeah, and then that one song.
and then the Rubber Band Man.
Yeah.
And
But like quick about the music, Alan Silverstry. I don't know if that's pronounced the name, but I downloaded the soundtrack. It's gorgeous if you actually sit down and listen to
the
it.
score?
The score. It is.
Oh, the very end alone.
Like the credit score alone was beautiful. The credit score alone kept my tears going.
Oh my
like
God.
from Peter all the way until the end of the credits. Because the music just kept adding to it. Yeah, I was bad.
See, I was going the other way. As I was walking out, I was sticking in comedy songs to make it as funny as possible. So, like, when he turns back Vision and reassembles him, I'm just saying, if I could turn back time.
That's awful.
I just wanted a bit of share in there, just for the fun of it.
God damn it.
Power of music. One song can change a whole.
Yeah, it really can.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, the music.
Now I
was-
want to watch it again and be like, all right, every time something major happens.
Well, we'll do a re-edit to make it less sad.
when Gamora dies, do some Alicia Keys Fallen.
It's in September.
I keep on falling. And just leave it there.
Like free falling.
Yeah. Oh, we're bad people. Okay.
That's a parody waiting to happen.
So let's jump to let's jump to Scotland because I know that's in there a little bit, and then Guardians takes a little bit longer. So we see Scarlet Witch and we see Vision. They don't know where Vision is. Iron Man doesn't know, and so that we see that they basically have all run away after everything because the Accord they had to, instead of turning themselves in, now they're fugitives, so they ran away. But it seemed like Scarlet Witch and Vision specifically ran away to see if they could realistically live a life of potentially building like a family, like a relationship, to see if that would work if they were removed from everything that had happened up to that point.
Right, because Vision was Team Iron Man and Scarlet Witch was Team Cap, essentially, by the end of the Civil War.
And it seems like things are working out and really happy, and they're like, well, and then all of a sudden they see what happened in New York. Before we continue there, we forgot. We talked a little bit before we started recording, but there's one person that could help this situation that Iron Man Stark has not talked to in a long time, which is Steve Rogers, Captain America, and the New York scene ends with Hulk, who isn't Hulk, he's just Banner. Banner is making that phone call to kind of push along the storyline. They were about to make the phone call, and then everything went to shit. So yeah, we didn't talk about that, so make sure we talk about that a little bit at least, mention it, so that way when we come back, we make sure we've gotten it there. So we see Vision, who's like, okay, I gotta go. Like, it's kind of weird. He's like, I'll stay here with me. And then I gotta go. He didn't really know what he needed to do. He felt like he's like, all right, well, Tony's gone. Tony's been trying to reach me. I gotta go save Tony. But he goes, and just as he's about to say, like, no, I gotta go, he gets stabbed in the chest from behind. Glaive, I think is the
Yeah, I think it was Glaive.
and this is where we have the other two, and this is really for the first time, other than a little bit in Civil War, where we really see the real power of Scarlet Witch.
Not Vision. God, Vision's very underused in this movie.
Oh, very much so.
But they handicap him in the first scene. This is the whole thing. I mean, they stab him and they stop him from phasing, right? That kills that. And then the entire time he's on the back foot, trying to come forward, trying to fix him, trying to get him all patched up and get him working again. And he's constantly at odds with everyone else. And that was a clever move because, one, it takes Vision out of the picture for any kind of a fight scene because there's no fight scene apart from this first one that we're talking about. And two, it then removes Scarlet Witch. Because now she's caring about him, or she's protecting him in Wakanda, whatever else, instead of actually being out there in the battlefield.
Yeah,
right. It's a great, fantastic strategic move,
and then drives that ending, and then it reinforces their kind of relationship. Let's say relationship rather than love thing.
The Vision Scarlet Witch relationship I was going to mention is a little bit weird because for some reason, like, they don't go into it at all, except for a little bit in Civil War. They have that very close bond, and then in this movie, suddenly they've run away to Scotland together and they're very much in love. And normally I would say that they're really wedging that in and it feels unnatural. But in this, it was weird for me because I bought it. And I didn't expect to buy it, but it did.
Well, it's in the comics. Like, that's one of those things that, like, the entire series, other than the more recent, I think it's 2013 Vision series, it plays with them actually being a relationship. So that exists outside of the MCU, but it wasn't really portrayed in the MCU enough to make it make sense to where it ultimately led in this movie.
I mean, I still bought it.
Like, oh yeah, I bought into it. Like, I understood it because these are two characters we haven't invested enough time or effort into, so if they tell us something about them, I'm just like, okay. Like,
because there's also a 2-year gap between Civil War and Infinity War that, like, if they've been doing that or hiding away for 2 years, there's... Yeah. Plus, I don't want to have every movie going... I don't like it when movies go into super big detail about certain things, like relationships. I would rather just be like, oh, there's a hint there, and then, oh, now there's a relationship. Yeah. Because if every movie did that for every couple, then it just starts getting kind of...
Right.
Notebook-esque.
And they foreshadow it in Civil War. They put them in the house together and she has to defeat him.
I mean, they didn't foreshadow it back in Age of Ultron.
Well, that was the death of her brother.
Well, when the whole planet's blowing up, Vision come up. If Vision's the one who saves Scarlet Witch, grabs her, and there's actually a look between the two of them for a second. So they set it up. They just haven't really moved with it very much yet.
And they are linked because her powers came from the Mind Stone, which is so they can push that as a kind of they are bonded in that way together.
Which comes into play in this film.
Yeah. Which, oh man, that was another one of those moments where it was like, so essentially we had this huge fight. I thought this one was interesting. We mentioned it earlier. It's this idea that very much more of a physical battle in New York with Obsidian and Maw, and with Glaive and Midnight, we definitely get more of the sleek, the quickness, the agility. One specific moment from this battle that I liked the most was when Vision does come into play and he uses his beam and it gets split off of the weapon that Glaive has, and it literally starts cutting everything in this like reflection. I thought that was awesome because we hadn't seen anything and really didn't get to see anything from Vision after this even. But just to kind of give you this idea of like his power. But then Scarlet Witch pops in, saves him again. She's using her little pulse beams, which are very powerful. They're knocking people all over the place. And then they land in the train station. Things look like they're about to be done though because he still can't phase out, and she is kind of backed up. And this is when train goes by, and we get Captain America. We see Steve Rogers. For me, this was a weird twist because this is not where I thought he was. The trailers made it seem like he was in Wakanda.
Yeah, and that comes back to the trailer cutting that they made.
Trailers purposely made you not know anything that was going on. I was so...
Because the only time we see him is get this man a shield in the trailers, which eventually does happen, but not until like the last third of the movie.
And it was a different version of that line. It wasn't the same.
Was it?
No, it sounds completely different. If you listen to the trailer and the film, they're very, very different. But the other thing it reinforces is it puts Steve and all the outcasts from the Sokovia Accords together and shows they have this sleek under the belt team that's just going on in their own little dark world, doing their own things, forming their own unity, which is nice because it sets them up as a group, as a unit.
Mm-hmm. And it helps really reinforce the passage of time since Civil War, because if they showed them, just still in Wakanda, then it would be like, all right, well, we're basically picking up where we left off from Civil War, and that wouldn't feel as, I don't know, time passage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we do have with Black Panther, we know at least where that fits into it. That is their at least by the end that we have Bucky's been there for a little bit of time, and then when we go to Wakanda later on, we see him again. It's like, oh, okay. What's it with White
Wolf?
Wolf.
Very big character in the Black Panther universe.
Yes.
I'm very excited with them possibly doing that in the future.
Well, maybe if we even get a Black Panther 2. We'll see.
Maybe that's what Black Panther 2 is. White Wolf steps up. Oh, no, we won't, because he's gone.
He's gone.
That's right.
They'll bring him all back.
Yeah, so, I mean, the Scotland little entry was fine, and I don't know. We needed it, of course. We can't just, forget about Vision, but it didn't get me nearly as excited. I don't think it was...
Oh, I like the reveal of Captain.
That was cool.
That was cool.
But it's seriously, that one to me felt a little played up, because it's you see the shadow behind the moving train, and you're he steps out of the shadows, and it's maybe, I mean, yes, it's super metaphorical, he's literally stepping out of the shadow that he's been living.
Well, it also was him distracting her, because then Falcon comes in and attacks her.
Yeah.
I feel like it was to us a play up.
Oh,
in the movie, it was actually strategic.
It made sense.
If I distract them, then Falcon and Black Widow can come in and attack them and get that going.
Yeah, and it's Marvel's cinematic universe, not Marvel really kind of obvious shots universe.
Yeah. I think no one's going to care about this, but can Scarlett Johansson and Black Widow pick a hairstyle? Every movie is something very distinctly different.
Yeah, I liked Iron Man 2 when she had the big curly red hair. That was personal favorite.
I like Winter Soldier hair.
It's okay, Aaron. I cared about it.
You cared?
Yeah, she popped up on screen and she was blonde, and I was like, really, again? More?
All right, so let's see.
She's a spy. She's changing her hair
that
color.
could be they're hiding, because obviously, if you saw a woman in black leather kicking a bunch of ass with red hair, you'd be like, oh, there's Scarlett.
But a woman in black leather kicking a bunch of ass with blonde hair, it's not her. It's
in a quick
We'll just
glance,
give her some glasses. That'll do it.
Well, in a quick glance, you might not recognize a blonde woman versus a redhead. It's just a very big difference.
I don't know.
It makes sense for
they're in
the situation,
Scotland,
but I do also admit, Black Widow changed her hairstyle a lot. No one else really does that except for Captain America.
Captain America a little bit, yeah.
But all he does is just let it grow out. He doesn't shave it or dye his hair.
He doesn't change it.
He just lets it grow. So
I think I was to say Thor, but that Thor kind of specifically has a reason for it.
Well, Thor didn't have a choice.
He didn't have a choice. But yeah, so it was interesting to finally get everybody there. I thought it was interesting how they play up the idea of when they come back. One aspect that was kind of, again, not really played up as much as it could have been was the Banner and Natasha interaction. It was hi Bruce, this is awkward, and then we never talked about it.
They ignored it.
Yeah,
because one of the trailers they even show Nat and I don't know if it's Nat and Bruce or how they edited it, but they showed Bruce with the Hulkbuster armor working on it before the battle starts, and that's not in the movie at all.
Yeah, at all.
That's not even in it. So
they also have all of the heroes and Hulk behind them running towards the camera.
That was an edge us.
Yeah,
real red herring there.
That specific scene was which I like I don't know. I'm just I kept waiting for it. The movie's over. Where was it at? And that was the specific image of the whole marketing. Was that? Mm-hmm. And I don't know. It seemed like the whole aspect of Banner being in the Hulkbuster outfit was not really that important. It was fine.
It was funny.
Yeah, but they didn't need to completely tease us away from it. It's okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anything else on Scotland?
The fight up until the train station, I don't know if anybody else got this vibe, but it felt a little bit weird. Very, very, very different from the New York fight. And I think it's probably just from, it had this very, desperate sort of cat and mouse thing, which I think is what they were going for. But the pacing of it sort of threw me off until we got to the train station and Cap was introduced, and all of that became much more of what we were talking about earlier, this very tight sort of, the hand-to-hand combat kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But this whole, they jump from this building to this building, and then this building to this building, they have a little bit of fighting, jump to a different building, and then...
I think it's because it was a really, different type of fight. It wasn't like a fight like in the New York, where it's they're both standing off in the street, and then they charge each other. It was an ambush. It caught Scarlet Witch and Vision way off guard, and also Scarlet Witch isn't fighting how she normally fights. she's like using her magic as a very melee, close quarters type of thing, where she's usually off in the back doing it from a range.
Right.
So for her, it's very I feel like for both of them, it's very out of their element.
Well, and the other thing it does is, and especially with the back to the beam comment where they split it on that weapon that Glaive has, it normalizes the Avengers against the Black Order and the rest of the expanded universe, because each of the 17 movies up until now, you've got these big badass characters, with the exception of Thor, doing their own thing in Earth, and they're the superpowers. Now you've got a whole universe, and you've got to go, right, well, in the grand scheme of things, they're only in the mid-range.
Humans aren't that great.
Exactly, and they had to somehow normalize that for the audience, and that was where, like, Vision's beam splitting, one of the most powerful weapons in the whole film, is deflected within 10 minutes.
Easily, yeah.
And so they're going to go, right, these aren't as badass as they can, and you really kind of feel that it's just a hint towards the normalization of the characters, I think.
Mm-hmm. And we see that later on, too, when Tony's suit starts to run out of nanomachines, and it ends up being, like, basically his upper half is I saw it, and I was like, oh, that's right. He's just some dude from New York.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, we are probably going to split this into 2 parts, so we probably at some point need to take a break to tell you guys what's coming up soon from Eventide. So let's do that right now. So you guys know what time it is. Go ahead and let's all go to the lobby, grab a refill on your soda, your popcorn, your Jujubes and Sour Patch Kids and all that shit, and let's see what is coming up soon from Eventide.
You know, there's nothing quite as satisfying as a good conversation with intelligent company. Join comedian Don Smith every week as he sits down and talks with comedians, actors, filmmakers, writers, and everyday schmoes. It's The Life with Don Smith, Wednesdays at noon on 106.9 FM, and now available on the Eventide Entertainment podcast feed every Friday on Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes. The weekend is over. Monday is here. But that doesn't have to be the end of your fun. Every week, Ellison Smith brings you a new episode of Saltwater Gaming, breaking down video games of all different genres, consoles, platforms, and eras. Get it all every Monday on Saltwater Gaming, brought to you by Eventide Entertainment.
All right, we are back for the second part of this podcast today. Let's look at Guardians of the Galaxy. They're finally introduced. We had kind of teased it earlier with a little bit of Rubber Band Man as being our tease into them. We got some awesome music, which again, the only real song in the entire movie, which I thought we'd get at least maybe one more with Guardians. But we finally get to see them. We get Groot, who is now like teenage Groot playing Defender. Very sassy. And I thought it was really cool the way they like one by one introduced them, just like with the camera panning kind of around the ship. But this was an interesting concept because it shows us what they have been doing, and they get a distress call to go help somebody, and they're like, all right, we're saving the galaxy. That's what we do. People are in trouble, we go and help them. And we hadn't seen that yet. Even in the second one, it seemed like it wasn't specifically going to help people because it was a big, huge monster that was going to destroy a bunch of things. Right. And they also did it very much for the financial aspects. They kind of teased that in this of like, well, if people have money, we'll take some. But we're here because we're here for the good aspect of it. What do you guys think of the Guardians reveal, and then how we get Thor involved into this group?
I thought that was really cool, especially when they did the opening Guardians song at the beginning to kind of let us know that we're going to have a little bit of fun for a minute, because at that point, all it's been is serious, heartfelt, emotional things, and now we're getting a bit of a comedic relief, because...
Thank God.
At that point, I think it was like 30 or 40 minutes into the movie until we finally get to start laughing and having a little more fun. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There were jokes, but up until this point, it was just everyone's getting shit on. And
yeah, basically, yeah.
And
Guardians have usually, like, in their own movies, they've always served that sort of role, that very
they're the fun
comedic, fun version of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that. Like, there are only 2 songs in the movie, and one of them is Rubber Band Man by the Spinners. And I really enjoyed that as, like, because that's sort of the Guardians of the Galaxy whole thing. Like, if you watch either of their movies, it's incredibly musically driven.
Which I watched both this weekend.
Right.
So, and I still think that's they have done so well. Like, to see the film and music pair up the way that the Guardians movies have done is still... I don't think any movie has done that as well, at least in the cinematic universe.
Because James Gunn, like, he picks songs and then makes scenes around the songs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because like all those songs that are really big, they're kind of like just really cool music videos.
Yeah, the Guardian intro was really nice because it finally showed them as a unified group. Because the first one, they were all separate entities coming together at the end. Second one, they divided them completely and broke them into tiny pieces, and then reformed them by the end of the film.
Yeah.
So this one was kind of them as, oh, hey, we are now actually kind of almost officially the Guardians, and we're doing what the Guardians do. And then they break them up again, but you don't feel any kind of discord there because you feel, okay, they can handle things now, they're still a group.
When everybody's kind of being split up here and there, so it makes sense.
There's kind of 4 groups at one point.
Yeah.
The lads who go to nowhere, and then Thor with Rocket and
Groot,
and then the other 2...
Captain America, and then there's Iron Man.
Yep. So they really kind of divide it, and they really balance it well between all the different groups and all the time. Which means I think every character got about 3.5 minutes of actual screen time, but it was really well balanced.
But they were really good 3.5 minutes per character.
Yeah. No, and that was my main concern with this film is that there are so many characters. I was like, there's no way they're going to be able to balance having that many characters in the film and be able to give everybody an adequate amount of screen time. But the way they did it with the groupings, it's almost as though we were watching like 4 different stories that happen to revolve around the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I liked how they had, and it was for a very short amount of time where we had the entire Guardians together. But I think that for me, it really showed what they have become. Of seeing Rocket talking under his breath the whole time. What was it that he?
So he can't eat dumbbells or some shit.
Yeah.
He kept just like messing with Star-Lord.
Well,
is your voice deeper?
Yeah.
No, it's not. I always said this.
That was great. That was one of
You
those
mocking
moments.
me.
That was one of those moments where I was like, that is definitely some Chris Pratt just trying some stuff and seeing what sticks.
Yeah.
And how Hemsworth was able to keep a straight face like the entire time.
Probably took a few takes.
That had to have been a couple takes. But yeah, so essentially we see the distress call being answered, and they're too late. You've got Asgardians literally floating in space because their ship has been destroyed. They get there, and Thor smacks up against it, and his eye opens. They're like, "Oh my god!" And they clearly are trying to not try to explain what happened there because he's just in the ship. Which I was like, okay, I can suspend my disbelief of how they got him in there, and he's a god. It's fine. So he gets in there, and immediately everyone is fawning over him. I think my favorite line is he's a combination between a pirate and an angel by Drax.
That's so great.
This whole sequence inside the Guardians of the Galaxy ship, the Guardians, was just phenomenal. It was so funny. We really needed it because it was starting to get a little too heavy. But just very funny. We do see, though, that we need to split up again. We need to go to, and I'm going to butcher this name. I know Nowhere's the one, but Nidavellir. Is that right?
That sounds right.
Yeah.
And that's where Thor wants to go because he needs a weapon. From Ragnarok, his hammer is gone, so he needs a weapon. He's going there, and he's trying to take Rocket with him because he thinks Rocket is the captain. He keeps referring to him as the rabbit. I thought Rocket would be more pissed off about that. He kind of gives him a look.
I don't think he knows.
He doesn't know what a rabbit is.
Because they call it out in Guardians 2 when they say...
Trash pandas?
Yeah, Trash Panda's like, is that good?
Like he doesn't know what anything's about. He didn't know what a raccoon was at first.
Right.
That's true.
He doesn't know what a trash panda. He doesn't know what a rabbit is.
He doesn't have the context.
That's true. I just was like, I don't know. I
There's
expect
no
him
space
to
Also,
there isn't.
if a pirate angel who survived a space attack from Thanos calls you a rabbit, I think you're just going to
You're
be
gonna be like,
yeah,
just
I'm
be
a
like,
rabbit,
okay,
sure.
I'm a rabbit.
He's a man. You're a dude.
Yeah. Well, and that was one of those things too. Is if you guys have ever had a conversation with Jordan, ask her about her first reaction when she saw Chris Hemsworth as Thor without a shirt on in the first Thor, and I was like, I can relate to Peter Quill so well right now because I was like, it's like Jordan, close your mouth, in Thor. She was so like just in like, oh my goodness.
Wonderful sidebar about that scene. They famous Shakespearean actor who directed it.
Branagh.
Kenneth Branagh directed the whole thing. A very Shakespearean tone. He's a very nice guy. They hadn't discussed the scene, and the script called for Hemsworth to be shirtless. He's like, I need to go up and chat to him. Chris, just want to put you aside a second. The scene, I know it calls for you shirtless. We don't have to do it. If you're uncomfortable, we can change it. We can reblock it. We can do whatever else. And Hemsworth just looks and says, mind. I'll spend 9 months in the gym. I'm getting my bloody shirt off.
He was very proud of what he accomplished.
Oh yes, as anyone would be.
I was gonna say, you look at all of these guys. If Chris Pratt can go from what he was in Parks and Rec to this, I was like,
he just stopped drinking beer.
that's it. Yeah, he was using talking. He's like, I just stopped drinking beer and eating all the foods that I like to eat.
Ben goes, how much beer were you drinking? But apparently for the first Avengers, when they all got together, like Cap and like all the Chris's were just hanging out talking, and Cap and Thor were there, and they were just kind of going, so how do you get like that bit? Like, how do you get this here? Like, have you got that under there? Like, just different regimes apparently for whatever's showing.
Oh god, it's just funny, like to see, like, because a lot of these guys, and we'll talk about this, is that we'd mentioned like, oh, the contracts are expiring. I don't remember Downey Jr. as anything other than Iron Man at this point. And it's getting close for not Pratt, but Chris Evans and Hemsworth. Like those three guys specifically, it's like, if I see them, I see them specifically as Thor, Captain America, or Iron Man. Mm-hmm. And it's like, they've got to be wanting to move on. Like, it's been great, but...
Evans is watching. He wants to
Everyone
direct.
wants to start directing.
He has been. That one with the kid, they've been doing stuff, but he doesn't. He wants to go, I think, after Avengers... This one, Are we calling it Avengers? Well, are we calling it?
Well, I think it's Infinity War Part 2, but they didn't call this one Part 1.
Well,
so.
they're not.
On the website, they put it back on the website. On the Marvel website, it's back to Infinity War Part 2.
Okay, because like I looked online and they didn't have an official title yet. But
so I was wondering if they were going to do like that's why I thought it'll be 3 stones, and then the next film will be they'll call it something else. But apparently it's back to Part 2.
Okay.
Well, I mean, the way this movie ended,
it needs to be.
I'm okay.
Yeah, the war's not over.
I'd like a Part 2, please.
No, I thought they wrapped it up nicely there.
So they leave the ship. I think we're at the Guardians. And
the Guardians
dividing.
Yeah, they split up, and you've got Rocket, Groot, and Thor who are going to go to Nidavellir, and you have Mantis, Drax, Gamora and Star-Lord who are going to go to nowhere to see the Collector, because they feel that the Collector... the Collector has the ether, which was there from Thor: The Dark World, which is the Reality Stone. So they split up, and we jump back to
the ship with Tony.
Then it goes to
Tony and
because now they
Strange.
save Strange.
Yeah. And this is where we see. Well, we knew very quickly as we were going into space that Spider-Man was on the ship, but this is where Spider-Man shows up and shows basically up to Tony, which I absolutely loved the interaction with the cape. Like I think that's kind of probably the cloak. Thank you. But I think that's why I like Doctor Strange so much, is because like you hadn't gotten that. It was like almost like this different type of theater where it's like miming and how you can incorporate that, and it was done again in this one. But they come back, and Strange is being basically they get tortured with these like needles that are supposed to, like, one of them can kill him. He's surrounded completely, and it's his torture device because, as we said earlier, as John said, there's this death lock on the spell. So you have a little bit of the dad moment where once Peter shows up, Tony's like, all right, what are you going to do? Like, kind of like passing the torch, like, all right, here's your plan. We have to get him out of here.
And also where Spider-Man says, it's really your fault for making such a good suit.
Yeah,
and Tony's face is like,
flabbergasted.
what? That part also, that was definitely a father-son moment. Like, oh, he said the wrong thing there.
Uh-huh.
He
should not have said
Oops.
that. And then this really, really old movie called Aliens.
I love that they brought that back.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting like way of going about it, is that you have Tony's drops down and Ma turns around and he's like, you don't realize who you're messing with. He's like, yeah, but you're right. But what does he say?
He's like, the kid's seen more movies.
The kid's seen more movies, and then all of a sudden he busts out, and then Ma flies through immediately into space and freezes and dies. But then they have to protect Strange, who's also flying out. There's a moment where I'm like, oh, he's gone. Like, I knew they'd get him back, but I'm like, Strange will be fine in space or something. But they get him through this hole, and they freeze it back up. But now they're in an alien ship that is intended to be flown by Ma or one of the Black Order, and they have no idea what they're doing. They're like, well, we're going to Thanos, I guess. So, I don't know. It made sense. we start to see this this breaking down of like what means most to them. Tony is basically saying, if you go through this, we're here as a team. Like we're all here together now. And Strange is saying, if it comes down to you, the kid or the stone, I'm letting you die. So like, what do you guys think about that as far as like is character development? Because we discussed it a little bit before, but I think it's important to see now because of what happens later.
Yeah, it's just setting up motive for each character. It's giving them all a reason to be there and a reason to work together. Otherwise, they'd be at loggerheads and we'd miss it. And then it does give importance to, with the subsequent scene of Strange looking at the 14 million, apparently, futures, which that number just annoyed me, that you can see that many. I know time, I know how, they can loop it and whatever else, but it is still. But that shows, well, here's the only important thing in my life is this is my goal and my purpose and my function in the world. And then he gives that up. So why the reason must be universally important.
Right, and I think that also really plays heavily into like this sort of tapestry-esque thing that Marvel has done with this movie, where I was just thinking about, though we were talking about the Guardians of the Galaxy, compare that tone of those movies to like Doctor Strange, or like an Iron Man film, or a Captain America film, and they all have these very different aesthetics and these very different tones and the things that they do in that movie, and it was really interesting to see how all of that stuff sort of played off of each other in this film.
Yeah, because you kind of almost got a little bit of each of those. Like you like we saw with Guardians of the Galaxy is comedic, the very physical with at the very beginning, almost like we're wrapping up the physical aspects of Ragnarok, taking away the humor because there really wasn't any humor in that opening scene. But I'd like that because it was woven together very well. You didn't feel like this is like 6 different movies. It was just like these are the characters and this is how they go about their actions. So we trying to think if anything happens before we go to nowhere.
They crash land, and the crash land felt like the helicopter scene from Suicide Squad. It was big explosion, but no, we're all fine. Don't worry, it's grand.
Yeah,
just a giant spaceship.
Well, I did see Strange put up like a force field right before they crashed.
He did. It was,
but
it felt like a bit of a cop out. All right, whatever.
A little, but I think that's one of those sort of stakes relative things where it's just like we just saw like the huge battle in New York and like we know what these characters are capable of, and like the crash was pretty bad, but I feel like that's something that they're able to handle.
Yeah,
it's a comic book movie. I mean,
of all the things to consider as far as
I'd rather focus on the fight with Thanos than focus on them landing of ship.
Sure,
yeah. All right, so let's look at Nowhere. We get to Nowhere, which actually I don't think we've ever been there before, technically. But did we see the outside?
Yes.
Have we ever seen the skull?
Because we saw the skull, because they do mention how it's like an ancient celestial.
Okay.
Well, the collector's there, so like they've been in Nowhere.
I know they've been there.
Yeah.
I just don't remember.
They mention it.
I play the Lego game, and Nowhere is one of the major places. So I'm like, I clearly remember where Nowhere is, but I didn't know if it had been seen in the universe. I couldn't remember. Which I think is kind of an interesting play. As soon as we get there, you see Thanos like immediately, and for me, like, I don't know if it's just me, but I see Thanos as not being... Granted, I know there's something to it, but it happens a couple times where he just is so oblivious to anything that's going on around him. Like, they're yelling at each other, Drax and Quill at one point, and he doesn't even turn around until Drax falls and hits the ground. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know. I see him as not that stupid. Because, we can say that, okay, well, what happens later is it's a false reality, but on Titan, there's people all over the place, and he's not aware of any of it. So maybe, even though he has like 4...
It could be a slight character flaw. Like, he's very focused on his goal. He's kind of oblivious to certain things. But at least in the Nowhere, he planned for them to show up. So it's like he kind of wants them to make him think that they got the upper hand, so that way Gamora will come out and do something. Because the whole point was to see if Gamora still cared about him.
Yeah. So, and this is... It's kind of a weird scene, and I really, really, really enjoyed, since it's a reality stone, what happens to Drax and to Mantis, because this is very similar to what you see in the comics. Essentially, we see Gamora jump, and this is Quill says, "Go right," and
she goes left.
She goes left, which is kind of a sad moment because it's this huge play that they have before she gets taken. But she goes and she runs up and quote kills Thanos, gets him in the neck, and then takes the we need to go back and talk about this, but takes the weapon, the little dagger that is given to her as a child and stabs him in the heart.
Yeah, we totally skipped over.
We didn't talk about that.
We totally skipped the Star-Lord,
let's-
Peter, the Star-Lord Gamora moment and the Drax.
So let's go back. Now that we're kind of talking about Gamora a little bit, we get kind of Gamora's very short origin story as to how she became a daughter of Thanos. What do you guys think of that? Because I don't remember the name of the actual planet, but it's Gamora's planet.
Yeah, I don't think they mention it in the movie. I don't think
because
they do like the titles.
Yeah.
I don't think they did it for that one, but it was. I don't know. I really liked it. I really liked that they didn't show Thanos killing Gamora's parents like Gamora said he does, but they still show him having his people massacre a whole half of his people. Like it's very true to like what Thanos wants to do, and he's very consistent. Like split the planet, split this whole population in half. You either go to this way or this way, and then. I don't know if there was a little small thing that decided which half got shot and killed. But,
yeah, it just seemed like it was...
Like, it kind of just seemed like it was random, but that's his whole thing of random fairness anyway. So, like, okay, and that side dies, and then shoot this whole side.
I mean, what do you guys think? This is the first time we've actually started to see this, is Thanos' purpose and motivation behind what he does is that people are dying, kind of overpopulation. Is it mercy or is it evil?
The action is evil, but I feel like the means and the justification is mercy, which is what I really like about Thanos.
Yeah, I mean it's complex
because like he's such a complex character. There's so many little instances where it's like you actually like care for Thanos, which we can get more into as we go through the movie because they kind of show them in different events. But I don't know. I like Thanos. I would say he's probably the best villain in the Marvel universe.
Well, he's missing a point though, because he's consistent. He said, I have a goal. The goal is to make sure everyone's living. That means cut the population in half. Okay, but why? Why does he care? Why does he care about other people dying? Does he care a lot, or does he not care at all?
I think it's the trauma from what happened on Titan. Because it's revealed later on in the film that that's what happened on Titan.
Right.
There was overpopulation, and he was the one that suggested, like, hey, if we just sort of randomly murder everyone on the planet, like half of you, then we'll survive. And they called him crazy, and they rejected the idea.
They called him mad, and there's he's called the Mad Titan. Right. So I'm like, oh, I get it.
But okay. So if that's the real effect, then when he has the power of the gauntlet, why not go back and fix the planet instead of killing the rest of the universe in half?
Because that's what he has set in his mind as the solution.
Okay.
Well, because he knows that you can't just go back in time and fix your planet because life itself is not actually. He believes that life naturally always kind of ruins itself, and he kind of has to go and cleanse the universe of like half the people that would cause a problem, and then I guess. He can use the time stone to live forever, and then every couple hundred, maybe a couple thousand years, just do it again.
Well, and it's very different. So in the comics, and this is where I was waiting to see what they did. Like, why does he want to? And we finally got a motivation. In the comics, he does this because he wants to become a suitor to Death. Death is like a character very similar to like if you've read any of the Deadpool comics, Deadpool actually marries Death because it's the one thing he can never achieve. So it's like kind of a metaphor and whatnot.
Yeah.
But so Thanos' goal is to he's Death is his mistress. He's trying to impress her, make her happy. So he wants to kill half of the universe so that she knows that he loves her. That's nowhere in this movie. Which I was like, okay, that's fine. But then the way they do it makes him almost a sympathetic character, and so it's going to be very. In the way that you see him at the very end of the movie makes him sympathetic. So I want to know what they're going to do to actually make it seem like we're cheering against him. Because it's not like... It doesn't seem like he's this evil guy by the end. Yeah, we know what he does, but he still seems like throughout the movie, like you said, it's very difficult to really hate him because he's doing everything in almost a positive way, or at least his motive is positive.
Because we've seen characters in the Marvel Universe do things that are questionable for greater good. Like Captain America in Civil War, he didn't give up his whole team, but he practically let them all sacrifice themselves so he could go save the day.
Yeah.
Granted, Thanos is doing it on a universal scale, a completely different scale, but it's still kind of like the same idea, giving up or sacrificing this for the greater good of the whole universe existing and being prosperous.
All right, well, that is it for this week. Looks like you guys are going to have to come back next week to get the second half of our discussion, I did not feel that it was appropriate to give you guys a 3-hour podcast this week. So come back next week, and we will catch up with you then. As always, you can reach out to me and the podcast at Drive-In Eventide through Twitter, or you can email us at the email address of driveineventide@gmail.com. All right, well, hopefully you enjoyed the first half, and we will see you guys next week for the second half of Infinity War discussion. Drive home safe.